Let's get honest for a minute. You just had the experience of a lifetime. Maybe it was a breakthrough meditation, a silent retreat, a spontaneous moment of awe, or even a guided psychedelic journey. For hours, maybe days, everything feels different. The world is brighter, your heart is lighter, the noise in your head is quieter. You walk around feeling like you finally cracked the code to life. Even little annoyances just seem to melt away. You find yourself smiling for no reason. There's this afterglow of feeling like you've come home to yourself and you're connected to everything around you. But then, life happens. Your phone lights up with dozens of notifications. A deadline appears out of nowhere. Maybe you spill coffee on your shirt or someone cuts you off in traffic. Maybe a friend or coworker says something that just stings. Suddenly, the peace fades. The old stress comes roaring back. Catch yourself reacting exactly the way you always did before. You wonder, was any of that even real? If you've ever felt that, you are not alone. In fact, everyone from monks to CEOs faces this same challenge. How to take moments of deep insight or ego dissolution and actually live them out in everyday life. That's what we call integration. And the truth is, having a big breakthrough is the easy part. Living differently after is where the real magic happens. Let's paint a picture. David, a 28-year-old software engineer, went on his first 10-day meditation retreat. Came back home feeling like a new person. He was patient with his coworkers, called his mom just to say hi, and even stopped biting his nails, a nervous habit since he was a kid. But just a week later, after a rough day at work, he lost his temper with his roommate, skipped his meditation, and stayed up doom-scrolling on his phone. The high was gone. When David finally sat down to journal, he wrote, "Maybe the point isn't to stay high forever, but to keep coming back to what I learned, Evan, when I forget. That right there, that's integration in action." So, how do you actually do it? How do you keep the magic alive? Not just on mountaintops, but on Monday mornings, in rush hour, and when life gets messy. First, you accept that the ego that plans, reacts, worries, remembers, will come back. That's its job. The difference now is, you've seen what's behind it. Instead of beating yourself up when you slip, notice it, breathe, return to awareness. The power isn't in never falling down, but in how often you get back up. One of the best tools for this is journaling. It doesn't need to be fancy. Morning, write down one thing you remember from your experience of ego dissolution. Maybe it's a feeling of peace, a memory of I am not just my thoughts, or even a line like, I'm part of everything, not just separate. When you're lost in stress, those notes become your roadmap home. But integration isn't just about the mind. It's about the body too. Try building small rituals into your day. Maybe you take 3 conscious breaths before you check your phone. Maybe you go for a 5-minute walk at lunch, paying attention to your footsteps and the world around you. Maybe you start your mornings with gratitude, literally saying thank you for your coffee, your breakfast, your family, your breath. These micro practices aren't here about chasing the high. They're about weaving it into real life, bit by bit. Let's get even more practical. Imagine you're at work. Your boss drops a last-minute project on your desk. You feel a wave of anxiety rise up. The old you would have spiraled, complained, gotten defensive, maybe even snapped at a colleague. But today you pause. You remember the spaciousness you felt on retreat. You take a deep breath. You ask yourself, is this really worth losing my peace? Maybe you still get the work done, but now you're doing it from a place of choice, not old programming. That's integration. Here's another story, Marcus. A father of 3, after a silent retreat, promised himself to be a more patient dad. The next week, driving his kids to school, traffic was a nightmare. His youngest spilled cereal in the back seat. Marcus felt the old anger bubble up, but for the first time he noticed it. He didn't shout. He laughed, cleaned up, and turned up the music. Later, he wrote in his journal, I didn't lose my temper. That's new. Maybe I'm changing, even when I don't feel it. These small wins are the real milestones of integration, you might ask. Why do we slip back so easily? Here's the science. Your brain is wired for familiarity. Every time you react with stress, irritation, or self-criticism, those neural pathways get stronger. But the beautiful thing is, every time you choose a new response, even once you begin to carve a new path. This is neuroplasticity at work. Over time, your brain changes, making it easier and easier to choose presence over autopilot. Let's try something together right now. Take a moment to close your eyes. Remember the last time you felt truly at peace? It could be from a meditation, a walk in nature, a moment of deep connection, or even a peak experience. Bring that memory into your body. Notice where you feel it, maybe in your chest, your belly, your whole self. Now open your eyes and ask, how can I bring a piece of that feeling into the next thing I do? That's how insight becomes muscle memory. Integration is also a team sport. In nearly every tradition, Buddhist sanghas, church groups, even group therapy community is key. Find an integration buddy, a friend, coach, therapist, or online groups, someone you can check in with, share wins and struggles, and remind each other to come back to what matters. Even a weekly call or text can make a huge difference. And don't underestimate the power of humor. Sometimes your ego will come back with a vengeance, and the best thing you can do is laugh at yourself. Lightness is a sign of wisdom. As one friend said, if you can laugh when you mess up, you're further along than you think. Some people get stuck chasing the high, wanting every day to feel as good as their best meditation or peak experience. That's just another ego trap. So the real work is showing up for the ordinary days, letting what you learned in extraordinary moments guide your everyday choices. Let's play out another scenario. You're at a family dinner and someone brings up politics. Old patterns fire. Defensiveness, frustration, the urge to prove yourself right. This time, you catch yourself. You choose to listen, breathe, and if needed, step away. You remember peace isn't just for silent retreats. It's for family dinners too. Pitfalls, there are plenty. You might use spiritual ideas to avoid real problems, what's called spiritual bypassing. Or you might start judging yourself for not being enlightened all the time. The fix is compassion. Remember, the point isn't to become perfect. It's to notice, forgive, and start again. Science supports this too. Studies show that people who combine insight with ongoing practices like journaling, gratitude, mindful walking, or even sharing stories with others experience longer-lasting changes in brain function, emotional stability, and life satisfaction. The more you practice, the more natural presence becomes. If you ever feel discouraged, remember, no experience is wasted if you're willing to learn from it. Forgive yourself and try again. Here's a practice you can start right now. At the end of each day, write down one moment where you chose awareness over autopilot, however small. Did you pause before reacting? Do you notice a feeling instead of being swept away by it? Did you remember to breathe? Over time, these moments add up. They become your new normal. Let's also talk about what happens when integration fails. My friend Alexis, after a powerful retreat, was convinced she'd never gossip again. But at her next family gathering, she caught herself slipping right back into old habits. She could have spiraled into shame. Instead, she apologized, laughed, and promised herself to keep practicing. The lesson: it's not about never falling. It's about getting up again and again. So how do you keep the magic alive, even when the world gets noisy? Here's what's worked for many people. Practice presence in micro moments. A breath at a red light. A pause before answering a text. Create simple rituals. Gratitude, breath work, a mindful cup of coffee in the morning. Journal your insights and lessons, especially when things get tough. Connect with others, don't go it alone. Share your story, ask for help, offer support. Be gentle with yourself. Kindness to yourself is the foundation of all growth. And remember, the real miracle isn't the big breakthrough. It's the 1,000 small ways you return to yourself, again and again. If you've had a moment of ego dissolution, or just a flash of real connection, how did you bring it into your everyday life? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. And if you haven't, start small. One mindful breath, one pause, one act of kindness. You don't have to live in the clouds to bring more presence, peace, and meaning into your life. You just have to come back again and again. Next time, we'll dive into building a lifelong practice of presence, so that even when life is messy, you can return to center again and again. Subscribe for more brain science, wisdom, and practical tools for living awake. You've got this.